to Cairo. It's the beginning of Ramadan, the Islamic holy month for Muslims. And I know a lot of people are wondering, is Ramadan a good time to visit Egypt? Will there be food? Are restaurants open during the day? What about shops and ancient sites? I'll be explaining all of that and more, so yalla, let's get into the video. Ancient sites like the pyramids of Giza will of course be open, but operating under different hours. You will find restaurants open in hotels. I would not, walk down the street chomping on a sandwich or chugging a bottle of water in someone's face. How can you greet people during Ramadan? You can say either Ramadan Kareem. I recommend Khalili. There's lots of lights there. It's a very festive atmosphere. But firstly, what is Ramadan? We all know it's a Muslim holiday and that people are fasting, but why? Let me explain that very briefly. Ramadan is the holiest month in the Islamic calendar and a part of the ancient Arab calendars. It all goes back to the year 610 AD. Muslims believe that the angel Gabriel, or Gabriel, revealed to the Prophet Muhammad the Quran, the Islamic holy book. That event is believed to have happened during Ramadan, so Muslims fast during this month to commemorate that. Ramadan is a time for forgiveness, a time for them to focus on their faith, and perform generous acts, such as donating supplies to help others in need. Fasting is an act of worship bringing them closer to God. It's a form of spiritual discipline and a means to empathize with those who are less fortunate. When does Ramadan start? When the moon sighting committee lets you know. That's right. The start of Ramadan is based off the Islamic calendar, which is based on lunar months. Ramadan begins when the thin crescent moon is sighted in the western sky after sunset, a day or so after the new moon. This sighting must be made with the unaided eye, so no telescopes are used. Because of this, there is no fixed date to the start and end of Ramadan. It changes every year and is determined by a moon sighting committee here in Egypt. Fasting. Who has to fast? When do they fast? And does fasting just mean no food? Nope. Fasting, or siyam in Arabic, is very extreme. So that doesn't just mean no eating, but also no drinking, smoking, cursing, chewing, sex, nothing from dawn till dusk. In fact, you're not supposed to put anything into your mouth. No food, water, cigarettes, medicine, nada. I even heard from one Egyptian that they were recommended not to use eye drops because technically the liquid could drop through your sinuses and go into your mouth. Wild. Who has to fast? Fasting between sunrise and sunset is obligatory for all Muslims during Ramadan, except for kids under 12, the sick, the pregnant, the menstruating, and the traveling. Days that were missed because of this factor can be made up throughout the rest of the year, either all at once or a day here and there. You might be thinking to yourself, traveling, why? Well, it goes back to hundreds of years ago when people were crossing the desert on camels and stuff. Nowadays, it's not really necessary, but it's still left up to that person's judgment whether they fast or not during Ramadan. Either way, they will be making it up during the rest of the year. When do people fast during Ramadan? So fasting starts from sunrise and goes until sunset. The times of that can vary depending on the day. As we all know, Muslims pray 5 times a day. The first prayer is called Fajr, then you have Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and finally Aisha. Meals are a time for Muslims to gather with others in their community and break their fast together. And it truly is a celebration. The evening meal, called iftar, can begin once the sunset prayer, Maghrib, has begun. So people are just ready, listening, and waiting for that call to prayer to go off. Or if they're at their home, they might be listening to the radio and waiting for the iftar cannon, which is like a little signal that the prayer is about to begin, and it is the sound of a cannon going off. So once people hear the Allahu Akbar, after that part finishes, people can begin to eat. Pre-dawn Ramadan breakfast called Suhoor happens right before the first prayer of the day begins. And same thing, people are listening to the call to prayer, or they are listening for the iftar canon, and when that begins, they have to stop eating. If you are not Muslim, you obviously don't need to fast, but I would recommend being aware and considerate of the people around you that are fasting. For example, 10% of Egypt's population is Christian, who are not fasting during Ramadan, of course, because they're not Muslim, but they are still thoughtful of their fellow countrymen who are fasting. So I would not, walk down the street chomping on a sandwich or chugging a bottle of water in someone's face. So yeah, just be aware of that. Of course, you can eat in restaurants, that's expected, but in public areas, I would try to be more considerate and thoughtful. Now for the big question. Are things open during Ramadan? It depends. If we're talking about restaurants, there are definitely less options than there normally is outside of Ramadan. However, like I mentioned, 10% of Egypt's population is Christian. So of course there are restaurants operating and open. You can get things delivered, but it is significantly less than when it is not Ramadan, of course. You will find restaurants open in hotels and in touristic areas, so don't worry, there's definitely food. It's just going to be a bit less during the day. Shops are still open, of course. The country has to run and operate as it normally would, although there are a few less shops open than normal. For example, in my neighborhood near my apartment, there is a convenience shop that closes for the entire month. But there are still plenty of shops where you can get snacks and people are selling souvenirs and things are operating as normal. The whole country doesn't shut down for the entire month. That being said, the hours are slightly different with many shops, which brings me to my next point, ancient sites. Ancient sites like the pyramids of Giza will of course be open, but operating under different hours. The same goes for the Egyptian Museum and many other ancient sites around the country. I will be showing those times, some of the times, here. What about liquor stores and bars? Egypt actually bans the sale of alcohol to all Egyptian nationals during Ramadan, regardless of their religious belief. So for this reason, you are going to find basically no liquor stores open. Most people start stockpiling supplies if they want to drink during Ramadan well before the holiday begins, because the shops start selling out, closing their doors, packing it up, and moving it away in trucks. So yeah, most liquor stores are completely closed during Ramadan. What about bars? Bars are open in certain areas, but it is very limited. So if you are a foreigner and you have a foreign passport to prove it, you can get a drink, they will serve you. However, because most people are not drinking during this time, most local bars are closed because they're just losing money during this month. So if you are looking for a drink, your best bet is to go to a hotel bar that has the appropriate license, and let me tell you, they are limited and they are expensive, so just be aware of that. In touristic cities like Sharm el-Sheikh or Hurghada, there are a lot more options, but in Cairo, not so much. How can you greet people during Ramadan? You can say either Ramadan Kareem or Ramadan Mubarak, which basically translates to have a blessed Ramadan or happy Ramadan. You can also say to a guy, Kol sana wenta tayyib, or to a girl, Kol sana winti tayyeba, which basically means I wish you well every year. And that is very local. They say that for a lot of holidays, actually. Are there any special foods to eat during Ramadan? Yeah, it depends on someone's circumstances, of course, but I will say that most people break their fast with dates and date milk. It is said that the Prophet Muhammad broke his fast with dates and a glass of water, so Muslims usually do that, both for suhoor and iftar. And of course, dates are very nutritious. They supply the body with energy and sugar after a long day of fasting, so makes sense. Aside from breaking their fast with dates and date milk, Muslims will also be drinking things like sobia, which is like a milky coconut rice drink, or amar al-din, which is made of dried apricots. tamarind juice, and you'll actually find a lot of people, a fair amount of people on the streets during iftar time, right before iftar begins, volunteer civilians handing out these drinks to people like stuck in traffic, or just people who don't have the opportunity to have something as soon as the call to prayer goes off. So yeah, a fun fact, a lot of those civilians, or a fair amount of them, are actually Christians just trying to help their fellow countrymen out. So that's pretty cool. After breaking their fast with some dates and drinks, the real feast, iftar, begins. And if people can, they will be eating all sorts of meats like kebab ahlan, chicken, pigeon, mombar, lots and lots of different types of meats, as well as lots of mahshi and bechamel, which is like a pasta with meat, tons of tagins, or tajin as they say in other countries, and fata, if I didn't say that already, Egyptian goulash, which is like a phyllo meat pastry, very delicious. I've actually made videos about a lot of the things that I've just mentioned and I'm going to be mentioning, so check those out in my Egyptian cuisine and street food playlist. And I will also be making more videos about some of the special foods that they eat during Ramadan in upcoming videos, so subscribe to stay tuned for that. Common desserts that people eat during Ramadan are kunafa, which can be like plain kunafa, or kunafa with cream, kunafa with mango. They're eating a toyef, zainab, so many different desserts. I'll be touching on that as well in upcoming videos. So that's a little glimpse of what people are eating for iftar, the big feast. But what about suhoor, right before the fasting begins again? So people are eating things that are not going to make them thirsty. So a lot of people are eating things like typical Egyptian breakfast foods like fool, something that's going to keep them full for a very long time. It's actually known as the nail of the stomach here in Egypt because of that. As well as like falafel and fries. A little salty, I know. But cucumbers, cheese, yogurt, cheese and tomato salad. So like I said, very typical Egyptian breakfasts, and of course, lots and lots of water. What do Egyptians do during Ramadan? So basically, everyone just goes to their relatives' homes to hang out. It is a great time, like I said, to hang out with others in their community. So people are going to other relatives' homes, and the first day is the big one, but it happens all throughout the month that relatives are visiting each other's homes. Friends will meet for suhoor and iftar at like restaurants and cafes. So it's a very lively environment. They're smoking shisha, they're hanging out, they're relaxing, they're eating, and they're really full. So it's very lively, but people are chilling. What can I do during Ramadan? Just go out and explore the streets. It is so lively, especially at night. I recommend Khalili. There's lots of lights there. It's a very festive atmosphere, but really all over the city. You'll see people's homes and the streets decorated with lights, lanterns, crescent moons are hanging. You know, it's a very festive atmosphere during Ramadan here. So yeah, it's a great time to visit. And during the day, I'm not so sure, but you have the Khamea market, which is a 1,000-year-old market. So here at the Khamea market, Bab Zuela, the old gate of Cairo, where they used to sell cloths, and they have lanterns out there as well. So it's a very beautiful place to see. The cop just called me beautiful. But yeah, I made a video about that actually, so check that out. It's near Bab Zuela, which is an old city gate of Cairo. I've also heard about Ramadan tents, although to be honest I don't know much about that. I looked on the internet a little bit. It looks like something expensive. If you are interested in checking that out, I think they have one down near Aberdeen Palace, but I think that's kind of expensive. I'm not entirely sure. So, but yeah, really just people are out hanging out, smoking shisha, drinking, eating till all hours of the night. You will see entire families out at 2, 3 in the morning. While you're wandering around, you might see these long tables out on the street called Ma'eda, which translates to tables of mercy. And basically these tables are set up and people donate food for the poor and the hungry so that people are able to have a good meal. However, it's not strictly just for the needy. If people don't have a chance to go home or they're working, they have nowhere to go to eat something, they can sit down there as well. If you do that, I would recommend donating. I personally have never done that. I don't want to possibly take the space of someone that is hungry and in need. So, but yeah, you might see that while you're walking around. Bit of a side note, but if you are coming to Egypt during the end of Ramadan, bear in mind that another holiday, Eid al-Fitr, happens directly after Ramadan to celebrate the end of Ramadan. And because of this, a lot of people are traveling home to celebrate with their families. So transportation can get a little hectic, busy. Book something in advance if you can. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that really quickly as a heads up. In summary, is Ramadan a good time to visit Egypt? Absolutely. The days might be a lot more quiet, but the nights 100% make up for it. It is a very festive atmosphere and a very special time of the year. So stay tuned for more. I'm definitely going to be making lots of different videos about Ramadan. If you've made it this far into the video, I really appreciate it. Give it a big like. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.